And welcome back to another CBB Talk. We got the second award show. I got my Kansas shirt on, which means one thing and one thing only. It's the Big 12 Awards Ceremony show, whatever you want to call this. We're going to go over the Big 12 tournament as well. Go through my Big 12 all tournament teams. If you haven't watched the ACC one, it's already been posted. What are you doing? Go watch. Go watch my Big 12, my ACC awards. I was pretty accurate in this one. So I did this yesterday before they announced the award, so I didn't know what they're going to do. Or maybe they already announced them. I didn't know. I checked them out before this. I would say similar. The Big 12 teams is where it's a little different, but I'm happy with my teams. I'm not happy with their teams. I stay confident in myself. Didn't change anything because if you're not confident in yourself, then who else will be? I'm dropping quotes early and often in this episode. Let's get into this, man. We got this one's tough. The Big 12 was very, very tough. Obviously, the best conference in America. But it was tough throwing together his teams because there were a lot of very, very good players, and it was hard to come up with some guys got cut, and it was hard to come up with those. Of course, that third team was very tough. But I'm gonna go share my screen right now. No cuts. Let's get into it. All right, as you see, got the tournament bracket on the right. We'll be talking about that at the end of the episode. But we got to get into these awards for the Big 12. This is the final year with Oklahoma and Houston, Oklahoma and Texas into it. This is the first year with Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, and USF, or UCF. God, UCF. I always say UCF. And I think most of the teams transitioned very well. Obviously, Cincinnati and UCF are 11, 12 seeds, but they got big time wins, and Cincinnati was probably ranked for a little bit this season. But let's get into this show. Freshman of the year. As if you didn't watch last year's, then I named the award after everyone down there. And I'm going to put last year's winner on here. So this is the Kevin Durant Award for Big 12 Freshman of the Year. Last year was Keontae George from Baylor. And as I realized, the Big 12 does not have a lot of freshmen that play impact minutes. There was about 7 or 8 guys who really was averaging over like 7 minutes a game. But a strong top 3, I would say. Number 1's Jacoby Walter. He's a second team All Big 12 player for me this year. He's going to be one of the first 3 college players drafted, in my opinion. He might be the first one. He has an argument to be the number 1 overall pick. A guy can just shoot the lights out. He's going to be a dynamic player. He's just, I don't think he's not as good in a version as Brandon Miller, but he kind of has a similar game style. He's going to be a one and done player. Scott Drews has been a great recruiter this over his last couple years at Baylor, and he's one if not the best player, close to the best player on a national. I would say not a national championship contender, but a team that can win the Big 12. In my eyes. Next up is Milan Mankilovic from Iowa State. I didn't really know much about Milan Minkovic. Of course, coming into this year, Iowa State was not projected to be an amazing team. I believe they were projected low, like in the bottom half or close to in the middle of the Big 12. Obviously, Iowa State's had an amazing year, has a case to be a 2 seed, 3 seed this year. And he's come in and started, I'm pretty sure, close to every game, over a 10-point score. He's been great for Iowa State. And he can shoot, he do a little bit of everything. I think he works a lot in that mid-range area. And of course, Iowa State's been one of the best teams. I think they finished with the 2 seed. And as a freshman, he's done amazing. Taman Lipsey was a finalist last year for this award. And now Milan Mankilovic. So TJ Osberger's had freshmen come in and been big impact players early in their careers, which is good to see from a program like Iowa State, who's come back and been amazing. And last, I got Yves Missi from Baylor. So 2 Baylor guys finish in the top 3 for this award. Missi was a guy who kind of came on the scene strong with that game against Auburn. A guy who we weren't sure how big of a role he would have coming into the season. And he's coming and taking that starting 5 role. Had a big game, has had big games all year. That one against Kansas was huge. He had a big game against Houston in a close loss. He's a dominant force at the 5, is super athletic, high motor player, and I don't know if he's going to be a one and done type player, but definitely has the mold to be that. From Cameroon, where's 21? I'm sure for Joel Embiid. So if you're doing that, I really like you, but it's kind of obvious who this award is going to go to. I am. We'll show you right now. The KD award for freshman of the year goes to Jacoby Walter. That's who the Big 12 had. That's who I have winning the Kevin Durant award. So Baylor wins back-to-back in this award. Jacoby Walter, again, I've said everything about him. He can shoot the lights off the ball. He's been leading scores in a lot of their games. Can do it from everywhere on the court. And I expect him to be a high draft in this pick. In this, obviously, going to be a lottery pick, probably a top 10, could be a top 5 pick. We'll see how he does, once the season ends, and he could give Baylor a big run this tournament, and I expect him to only get better from here. But a great freshman year for Jacoby Walter, and he's going to win Big 12 freshman, rookie, whatever you want to call it, of the year. Let's get into our next award, which is always the transfer of the year. This is the Davion Mitchell Award, of course, came to Baylor, won a national championship. Last year's winner was Keontae Johnson from Kansas State. Obviously, Keontae Johnson had an amazing, amazing year last year. Won a great story from Kansas State. And we have a lot of good people for this award that I couldn't even get on this list. This was a very tough award to give out. And there were so many good candidates for this award. So let's get into them. Number 1, I have LJ Cryer. I have him as a third-team All Big 12 player. What he did, he's transferring from in-conference, so newcomer of the year, he couldn't win. But he is a transfer. He transferred from Baylor to Houston. So in conference, but he's used to this competition. He's done an amazing job. This is this is not really a transfer up. This is kind of just like a side transfer. You transfer from a similar level to another level to the same type of level. Usually you see people either transfer up or transfer down. This is kind of just a transfer to a similar type of program. And he's been the leading scorer on the best team in the nation. What else can I say? He's been a leader. I think this is his senior year. Maybe it's another year of eligibility. I'm not actually sure. But LJ Cryer has been amazing. He's been very consistent. Has he been the best player in Houston? No. But he's been, the guy who's used to Big 12 play, and he's, doing it on one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team. Second candidate is Max Abmas. I have him as a second team All Big 12 player, coming from Oral Roberts, a guy who transferred up. He's transitioned pretty much flawlessly. It was what you expect from one of the greatest scorers in college basketball. Obviously had a very great career at Oral Roberts. Of course, had that run in 2021, made the tournament last year, was averaging over 20-some points, one of the leading scorers in the nation. Transfers up to Texas, best player on the tournament team, averages, I think, 16 points a game. He's been a great guard, has had big-time moments, big-time, games. And a lot of times for Texas, they've struggled, especially early in the year without Dylan DeSoto. He had a lot of weight to carry. And there's been times where he's just that only guard that can get it going, because Tyrese Hunter's been kind of disappointing this year. And Max Abmas has been great. And for transferring up into this Big 12, the toughest league, it's been amazing for him. And the final candidate is Hunter Dickinson. I have him as a first-team All Big 12 player. I would say this is a transfer up from Michigan to Big 12 to Kansas. He was the biggest name on the market coming into this year, and he comes to Kansas and has been dominant. Kansas having a little bit of a down year. They're still going to be a top 4, top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, and he's had moments of dominance all year. So who's going to win this Davion Mitchell Transfer of the Year? Let's take a look. It's Hunter Dickinson. Look, Hunter Dickinson, again, what I said, he was the biggest name in the transfer portal. Kansas ends up getting him, and they don't regret it. He's been one of the best players in the nation. He's probably going to be an All-American. We'll see with this injury, this shoulder injury. I'm not sure the severity of it. Hopefully he can be back for the Big 12 tournament, if not the NCAA tournament. I got to go look. I'll look at this after I'll take a look at this after my Player of the Year awards, and then Hunter Dickinson, what else can I say? I mean, great big, shoots the ball, not afraid to talk shit about your favorite team in game. He's just been a great player in this league now, in college basketball for a couple seasons, and I think he has another year of eligibility, so I'm sure he'll be back in Lawrence, because I don't think he'll have a great NBA stock. But who knows? Hunter Dickinson, great last name, because if you don't know, I think it's right there. You can probably see it right there. My last name's Dickinson. So from a Dickinson coming to another Dickinson, it's much appreciated. And yeah, Kansas winning a transfer player of the year. Same, not Kansas State like last year, but Kansas. Coach of the year. This is the Bill Self Award, and he won that award last year over Jerome Tang, who I think ended up winning my National Coach of the Year, which is crazy. But I filmed that awards after the season ends. But this Comments Awards are different. Kansas was one of the best teams in the country at this point last year, so I gave it to Bill Self. And let's go see the nominees for the Bill Self Coach of the Year. Number 1 is Mark Pope from BYU. In their first year in the Big 12, BYU is projected not to be good. I believe they're projected maybe second to last. Come in, they're the 5 seed in the Big 12 tournament. They're a lock for the NCAA tournament. What a year for the first year in the Big 12 for Mark Pope. He's done an amazing job. And yeah, BYU shoots the 3 a lot, and they could be a dangerous team in March. And let's see how they can do in the Big 12 tournament. Kelvin Sampson, the number 1 team in the net, number 1 team in KenPom, number 1 team in Torvik. If you look at the metric, Houston's probably number 1. I believe they're number 1 in the AP poll. Kelvin Sampson, I don't know how many years he's now been at Houston, but he's a Hall of Fame coach. And this could be his best chance at a national championship. He's made a Final Four once, but Houston has bigger goals. They want the Natty, and this could be the year. And last is TJ Otzelberger. Just an amazing turnaround job from not winning a game in conference in 2021 to now. Was it 2021? Maybe it was. Maybe it was 2020. I think it was 2020. They didn't win a single game conference to now making 3 straight NCAA tournaments. It's quite remarkable. It's great to see what he's done in a very tough conference in the 2 seed. Iowa State kind of flying under the radar all year. And this was a very tough race between who's going to win this coach of the year, because all 3 people were strong candidates, and it really came down to Sampson or Otzelberger. So who's going to win the Bill Self Award for Big 12 Coach of the Year? It's Kelvin Sampson at Houston. Look, Kelvin Sampson might win National Coach of the Year. Depends, how they do in March. But look, this team is a juggernaut. I think there's 2 juggernauts in college basketball. It's Houston and it's UConn. And they are force. They are going to play the same way they're going to play against a shitty team or against Kansas on the road. And they've lost 3 games all year. One of them was to Kansas on the road. They got picked off, a couple road games in the Big 12 when maybe people were fading Houston a little bit. No, I have them as number 1 in the country. I understand if you have UConn, Purdue, but I think Sampson's just done an amazing job at Houston, transitioning them to the best league in the country, seamlessly. And I think he was the pick of just over TJ Otzelberger. I think if Otzelberger was maybe any other conference, he wins this award. Let's get to the Big Daddy, the Buddy Hield Award for Big 12 Player of the Year. Man, I'm a huge Buddy Hield fan. What he did in his years at Oklahoma were remarkable. So I had to name the award over him. Name the award after him last year. Last year's winner was Jalen Wilson from Kansas. Just a great year from Jalen Wilson. He was first team All-American, I believe. Let's take a look at your candidates. These were tough. First is Hunter Dickinson. What else do I have to say? First team All Big 12 player this year. He was my transfer of the year. Just a beast. I've already talked about Hunter Dickinson a lot. Second candidate, Jamal Shead. Obviously, first team All Big 12. What can I say about Jamal Shead? Just a guy who is the epitome of heart over height, a guy who gives it his all. He won Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, which is a word I just don't give out. Just what a player. What a player. I have nothing but good things to say about Jamal Shead. He hits big-time shots when he needed to. He only averages, 13 points a game? It doesn't matter. He is one of the top leaders in assists in the conference, leads this league in steals, a tenacious defender that is just almost impossible to guard, to score on. The leader of the best team in the country, Jamal Shead, is him. The final player was tough. I went with Kevin McCullar. Tough. Kevin McCullar, when healthy, could have won this award. And who knows what Kansas is when Kevin McCullar is healthy, but he's missed so much time. But if you really look at the players in this league, Kevin McCullar stats are insane. He averages almost 19 a game. He's had triple doubles this year. He's Kansas's best player when healthy, and he hasn't been. He has that leg injury. We'll see if he can ever get fully healthy, because Kansas at full strength has been like the best team in the nation But he was he's still first team all Big 12, a finalist for Player of the Year. What a player! It just sucks he's been injured. So Kansas has 2 nominees as a finish as a 6th seed. But if you look at it, it makes sense. Let's go look who wins Player of the Year. It's Jamal Shead at Houston. What Jamal Shead did this year is great. Is just amazing. If you look at his counting stats, they're not eye-popping for a Player of the Year, but he's going to be a first-team All-American for a reason. It's because of what the little things he does. It's guard you 94 feet. It's been to national. It's be a leader. It's hit big-time shots, and it's the best player on the best team in the nation. I like the best player in the nation, or best team in the nation. Kansas, having a down year, couldn't give it to one of those players. It's Jamal Shead. What he's done transitioning from the American, kind of being a bit role player his first year, and now what he's come into to be one of the best players in the country is just really remarkable. So shout out to Jamal Shead. I'm gonna go pause real quick and go check that Hunter Dickinson injury. But yeah, Jamal Shead obviously earns the Buddy Hield Award for Player of the Year. Yeah, just a great year from Jamal Shead. Let's see what they can do in March. Or it's already March, but you know what I mean. So what I found is I don't know how long he's gonna be out. I know it's a dislocated shoulder, looking like he's probably gonna miss the Big 12 tournament. And if him and McCullough miss it, they'll probably just lose first round, try to get healthy for March and be a 4 seed, which maybe isn't a bad idea. Kansas could be dangerous if they get Dickinson healthy. Let's go look at this team, the teams, because this is the hardest part of making these awards is coming up with the first, second, third team. First team. I'm going to talk about the guy. I'm not going to talk about the guys I've talked about. Jamal Shead, talked about him a lot. Obvious first team player. Tamin Lipsey, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the country. If Jamal Shead doesn't lead steals, it's Tamin Lipsey. He's the best player on Iowa State. Just a sophomore. He's going to be just a force to be reckoned with if he stays 4 years in college. He's only going to get better. He's grown after last year. I think he's underrated, and I think he could come out, and if Iowa State is a good Big 12 tourney or makes run in the NCAA tournament, Tamin Lipsey's going to be a guy everyone's talking about. Pop Isaacs is a guy who made the real third team in the Big 12. I disagree. Is Pop Isaacs maybe a shot chucker? Maybe. But also, one sec. No respect. Pop Isaacs is a guy who Texas Tech's kind of been also a team that was unexpected. Grant McCasland was close to being a Coach of the Year finalist, and Pops Isaacs has been the best player on that team. He's a guy who is going to be able to have a high volume of shots, but he's a guy that they rely on a lot to score the ball. He's just done an amazing job in his sophomore year at Texas Tech. I think he's underrated. A third team for him, I find that disrespectful. I could understand second team, but I like Pop Isaacs a lot. And I like having a team with 3 guards, and I try to build it kind of like a team, which is hard, right? Because the third team isn't really like that. But Pop Isaacs, I give respect to Texas Tech. I give him first team. If you're a best player on one of the top 4 teams, it's hard to leave you off. And Pop Isaacs is that, and I have him there on the first team. Say what you want about him. I love the way Pop Isaacs plays. He's not afraid of the moment. And Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson, the 2 Kansas players on this list. I've talked about them both. The only Kansas players to make make these 3 teams, but KJ Adams was very close. Second team, Max Abmas. Talked about him a lot. Obviously, he has probably the best stats on the second team, but there was already so many guards I couldn't have him on there. Ray J. Dennis. I think he's one of the best point guards in the country. He averages over 6 assists a game. He's one of the best in the nation. Keeping the ball without turning it over, giving the ball to his players, being a distributor, and he can also score. He's been so good over the last month. He's really just improved. And was he a transfer from Toledo? Did I not lead him in transfer of the year? Or was he just like, that was a miss on my behalf? One sec. How much did I just miss that? Oh my goodness. That's actually a miss on my behalf. Hand up accountability. I didn't have Ray J. Dennis as a finalist, and I should have had him over LJ Cryer. I totally forgot Ray J. Dennis transferred from Toledo. That's on me. He wouldn't have won the award, but he should have been a finalist over LJ Cryer. But too bad. Too bad. That's on me. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. Jacoby Walters, second team. He was third team in the real thing. I love Baylor's very, very good, and I won 2 players on that third team. On that second team, and Jacoby Walter at times has been the best player on Baylor, the best scorer, and one of the best freshmen in the country. Emmanuel Miller, a guy who fills up the stat sheet for TCU. He's been their best player. And look, TCU, just don't lose your first round game in the Big 12 tournament. You should be safe, but they haven't been playing amazing of recent, but Emmanuel Miller's been the most consistent player on TCU. And Dylan DeSue was the first team player over Pop Isaacs. He's missed a lot of time this year. I don't know if the Big 12 counts if only Big 12 player the whole season. I don't. I count the whole season, obviously. DeSue's missed some time earlier in the year, but he's been Texas's best player when healthy. And I have him and Max A. Smith on the second team. Third team, LJ Cryer. I think that's where they had him in the real thing. Not too surprising. He was a transfer year finalist, even though it should have been Reggie Dennis. That literally slipped my mind until literally just looking at this. Keyshawn Gilbert, leading scorer on Iowa State. He was second team All Big 12 in the official Big 12. Well, I have him second team because I think he's a little just more inconsistent at times. Obviously, when you're leading scorer, one of the best teams in the country, it's a lot. But what Taman does for that team is just a little bit more. But obviously, can't deny how good he is. He's on my Big 12 third team. I have Tyler Perry, a guy who wasn't on the real list. He averages, I think like 16 points. Best player in Kansas State. Not going to be a tournament team, but I want to give love to some of the lower teams on there. And I'm not mad if you have a guy like Jalen Bridges on there or someone else, but I had Tyler Perry. Can't be. I'm not mad. I'm not mad if you have someone that's on a better team like a KJ Adams or something. But I like give love to some of the lower teams like Jalen Sellers, a guy who also is a transfer. So on this second team, third team, I have three transfers on there. Jalen Sellers, really underrated player for UCF. Again, leading scorer there, guard. You can really score the ball in bunches. And maybe UCF, obviously, they've won some big games this year. And again, he's been a major part of that. And Jawan Roberts, kind of like the unsung hero of this Houston team. Kind of like the anchor low defensively. Him and Javier Francis. It was between him or KJ Adams for me, but I couldn't have more Kansas players. I couldn't have more Kansas players than Houston players, and Houston finished number one. So I had to give the edge to Houston to have three players. The only team that had three players in all the teams. So let's go take a look at this the tournament before we get out of here. All right, let's take a look at this bracket. The teams the double bye. Houston with the 1 seed. Iowa State with the 2, Baylor with the 3, and Texas Tech slid into that 4. So shout out to Texas Tech. So as I'm just going to fill out this bracket, give my thoughts. Nothing major, but a bracket nonetheless. I'm going to take UCF over Oklahoma State. UCF has won bigger games. I trust more. Jalen Sellers is a dog. I'm going to have him win that game. And then I'm going to have freaking Cincinnati beat West Virginia because West Virginia's dog shit. West Virginia was so sweet. I thought West Virginia was going to be good this year. They got a lot of good transfers in. I think Trey Mitchell left. Some other guys left. And it's just been an unfortunate season for West Virginia. Let's see if they can find a coach maybe this offseason. UCF BYU. I could see BYU being on upset alert here. Do I want to do it? No, I'm gonna take BYU to win this game. I gave love to Mark Pope earlier. I'm gonna keep that love. I'm gonna have BYU winning. TCU Oklahoma is a huge game. Why? Winner is 100% in the NCAA tournament. Loser's probably 75% in, 80% in, but there could be a little doubt. I think I'm going to give that edge to TCU. I think they've been better all year than Oklahoma. I called Oklahoma being overrated early when they were like 13-0, 12-0. I'm going to take TCU to move on and play Houston, a team they've already beat once. Kansas State, Texas. I'm going to go all chalk in this first round, aren't I? I don't love that, but I'm going to take Texas to win. Max A. Smith, Dylan DeSue, great duo. And that's going to be interesting against Iowa State if that happens. And fuck it. I'm going to take Cincinnati to beat Kansas because I'm assuming Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough don't play in Kansas's ass if that's the case. So I would take Cincinnati to beat Kansas. I mean, Cincinnati making a little run. And if they beat Baylor, then we can have a real discussion about Cincinnati. So then we got BYU, Texas Tech. That's a good game. I'm going to go Texas Tech in this one. Top Isaac Starius Williams, a guy who made the real Big 12 team. I really like them too. Two guys who can lead Texas Tech, and Grant McCaslin has a very good team going at Texas Tech. TCU, Houston. I'll take the juggernaut in Houston. Go past TCU, and I think TCU will be in the NCAA tournament. They beat Houston once. They've given problems, but I don't see Houston losing to them. Texas, Iowa State's interesting. I'm going to go Texas in this one to pull off a little upset over Iowa State. I'm just not sure how much I love Iowa State. Obviously, I like Taman Lipsey and Keyshawn Gilbert. But this team doesn't have the star power. I think Texas could, give them a tough run here. Fuck it, pull off the upset. And then I would have Cincinnati Baylor in this one. I think Baylor wins. And the semifinal, Houston, Texas Tech. Give me Houston and Baylor versus it would be Texas. I like Texas in this one. I think Texas did beat Baylor once, but I'll take Baylor to move past. And then Baylor Houston would be a great game. I'm gonna take Baylor actually to get this win. And Baylor be a Big 12 tournament champs here. I think that would launch Baylor up to a 2 seed. Houston would still be a 1. So if that happens, I would have Baylor as a 2, Houston as a 1, Iowa State as a 3, Texas Tech as a 5, Kansas as a 4, Texas as an 8, maybe a 7. I would have TCU as a 10, Oklahoma as a 11, and BYU as a 5. That's it right there. Cincinnati would be out. That's my Big 12 tournament preview awards. I hope you enjoyed this. More are coming. Big East is next, so I don't know if this will be posted tonight or tomorrow, but whenever it's posted, go watch the ACC one if you haven't, and then go be ready for my Big East come in, and then my SEC, and then my Big 10. It's March. Keep expecting unexpected things. Peace.